Oh, now we're on. Anyway, having a bit of technical difficulties this morning. Morning, everyone. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Some ghosts in the machine this morning. I've started a little bit early, our Wealth Coffee chat this morning, because I've got some appointments on a bit later. But let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Good to see a few of the early birds on. Howdy. Morning, Deb. Morning, Sharon. Morning, all. Well, I've started early this morning, team, so welcome. Thanks for joining. And I got to leave a little bit early. So I thought I'd do a little quick one today and talk about the average Aussie, the person who, most people who grow up without any direct wealth and financial acumen. And this is not a negative, it's just the way it is in the Australian, the Australian workplace, the Australian average Aussie's world. Tell me in the chat, we're going to get straight into it this morning. What are the 4 most influential professionals that most Australians default to for advice or direction or feedback or conversations about money and wealth? What are the 4 people that there's a default? And I think the default is not parents, Bradley. Yeah. Well, that is true, but I'm talking about professionals today, Bradley. You might have friends and family as the number one influence, but beyond the friends and family situation, who are the 4 professionals that have by default are given the 4 professionals that most people default to, and we're going to talk about that today because I think we need to understand. Interesting. We need to understand that those 4 professionals aren't necessarily the ones we need to default to. Yeah, we've got a few good ones here. We've got Kumi in with the financial advisor. Yes. Sharon in with the bank manager, finance person / accountant. There's one more in life that most people are default to in one way, shape or form. Let's do this. Let's have a look at who they are. That is the financial planner. Let's do this in kind of like number 1 order, shall we? Number 1 order. What's the person that, a broker and a lawyer. Mark is on it, right? Mark is on it. So let's have a look at this. when we have a look, right, usually for most people, financial advice, wealth advice, number one is usually the accountant. People go, oh, I'll ask my accountant about that, right? And the challenge is for most of us, just so we understand, most accountants, 99% of accountants are not into wealth. Okay. Oh, mind blown. What do you mean my accountant's not into wealth? Yeah, well, let's talk about that. The second one in the Australian landscape that is most asked about wealth advice is a mortgage broker. A mortgage broker. You know, what do you think about this property? Should I buy this? Get me a loan, create some money for me? Okay, cool. Then the third one, folks, in Australia, very sadly, the APRA investigation. You know all that the APRA financial investigation that launched in 2017 has done to the Australian landscape, very sadly, which there should be an investigation on. This stuff is bullshit. Anyway, don't get me started on that one. Jason, stay on track today. You know what's happened in financial planning because of that APRA bullshit? You know what happened? 1 million less Australians today don't get financial advice because of that APRA investigation, because financial advisors had to put their prices up because of all the risk attached to what they were up to. Don't get me wrong, some of them are doing not a good job. Anyway, I'm getting distracted, aren't I? All right, let's go, Jason. Come on, soundtrack. Now, we've got the last but not least, the lawyer, okay? The challenge is, ladies and gents, tell me, when was the last time you chatted with your accountant, all right? What does your accountant do? What does your accountant do? For most Aussies, what do? They do a tax return, right? That's what they do. They do a tax return. Now, is that wealth advice? No, that's not wealth advice. That's a tax return. Who do they work for? Who do they work for? And this is the facts. Who are they licensed by? Who do they work for? Who do they calculate the amount of tax owed for? Who are they helping you pay? Just put that in the chat for me quickly because I've got to go in 10 minutes or 5 minutes today. They work for the ATO team. Now, I've got a bunch of awesome, amazing accountants that I know and even really good ones. You know, they run businesses. They're just looking to get the job done, get your tax return done, tick and flick, charge you a fee. That's their business. They're working for the ATO. They're not sitting there they're not spending tens and 20s and hundreds of hours thinking about how you can create wealth. No, you're asking the wrong person, the wrong things. Right, let's go to the mortgage broker. You know, the mortgage broker, what's their job? Is to get you a loan. That's their job. Their job's to get you a loan. And by and large, you know, by extension, who do they get paid by? Now, this is not a negative. This is just a game we play. You know, yeah, Mark's right. They're just a loan expert. Their job is a tactical job, and we're going to talk about that in 5 seconds, right? They work for the lenders to get you the loan, you know, and there's some framework around them behaving, and don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm talking about today. Their job's to get you a loan, okay? And they work and they get paid by the banks and the lenders. Now, as long as you know that, it's not a big deal. I'm not saying it's bad. I want you to know what it is, all right? Financial planners, very sadly, and this is, again, a reflection of the industry. These professionals should have the capacity to help you create wealth. And what do? 99% of financial planners, who do they work for? Right? And what do they set up? Now, this is broad conversations. They talk about super, and they're extremely controlled and scrutinized around this, which I think's, listen, I'm not going to say it. They talk about super and they talk about life insurance. Two very important things. Two very important things, folks. But that's not wealth advice. They certainly shy away from, I can't talk about property. I can't give investment advice. I can't do this. I can't do that. And the lawyer, their job is to have a look at some legal stuff for you. The challenge is most Aussies default to these four people. And tell me this. Out of all of these four people, which one's got the most wealth on average in Australia? Tell me which one of these four are the most wealthy? All right. Yep. They are a fee paid service. They're right, Mark. They're right. Tell me, who's the most wealthy on average in Australia out of these four professions, right? So if they're meant to be giving you wealth advice, I always say this, don't take wealth advice from a broke person. Alexis is on it. Boom. The lawyers, all right? The lawyers. And it's not from investing. It's not from wealth. It's because things go wrong all the time. Yeah, actually, the banks, not the loan writer though, Tim. The banks are the wealthiest. The legal eagles, right? But they're wealthy from their profession. I can tell you right now, there's no skewing. There's no on average accountants are wealthier than the average Australian. No, they're not, right? They just might have a better tax return. Who knows? Financial planners, on average, not wealthier than the average Australian. Mortgage brokers, not wealthier than, I should be putting a cross there, shouldn't I? Right? Not wealthier than the average Australian. And the difficulty, the problem, team, is we, by default often, we ask them about our strategy for wealth and wonder why we don't move forward, why we don't become wealthier, why we don't grow our wealth, why we don't progress. And the problem is their job, most of them aren't wealthy or into wealth in the first place, okay, which is fine, no issues. Some of them are very good tactical implementers of something you need. I need a loan and I want a good broker, a good finance expert to get me the right loan. Boom, done. And they'll probably be a reasonably successful business if they're good at that, right? But don't ask them, how do I get wealthy, if they're not wealthy themselves? How do I invest in property? Mortgage brokers look at real estate all day, every day. And on average, they're not any better than the average Australian when it comes to investing in real estate. You would think if someone saw lots of real estate, they'd get the hang of it, right? The challenge is this. What we need to understand as investors is these professionals are tactical. Their job is to do a thing very well. Make sure my super and my life insurance is thumbs up, perfect. Make sure my taxes and my tax deductions and my refunds are done excellently. Make sure my legals are done well. My question, and it's kind of, a self-answering question, and I'm going to finish up today on this because I've only got a quick one for us. Who do we talk to? Who do we strategize with to create our wealth strategy, right? Our wealth strategy. And that's where you guys know how I feel about this. This is what I've spent 25 years doing. Mentoring, coaching, educating from a place of experience in that investment vehicle, property, coach, mentor. Dead right, Chris. Yeah. And you know what? You would be mad if you came and asked me. So if you said, Jason, what do you think about shares, right? That you're asking the wrong person a good question. You should find someone who is an expert in shares, who's wealthy from shares, and ask them. Don't ask me, right? We as investors have to take responsibility of what questions we ask, what education we get from who we're asking. A good coach, a good mentor, e.g., hopefully me, if you think that gives you direction, strategic feedback, education, coaching, and mentoring around a specific thing. If you want to create a property portfolio in residential real estate in Australia, I'm your guy. Anything outside of that box, commercial real estate, it's not my thing. I know very good commercial investors, right? Shares, not my thing. I know very good share people, right? And that's the way as a investor, you become the best of the best because you understand who is there for strategy and who is there for tactics, all right? Implementation, organize, facilitate, take care of. Yep, dead right, Catherine. Away you go. All right, team. Well, listen, I had to get going early this morning because I've got another appointment on, so I wanted to fit a couple of things in. So hopefully that made sense. I had a few conversations in the last week about this, people saying, oh, why didn't my accountant tell me that, right? I've had this conversation so many times. Why didn't my accountant tell me that? Because that's not what they do or who they are, or that's not even their business. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? So education, understanding, coaching, and mentoring, I think is powerful. Anyway, thanks, team. That's it from me. Wealth Coffee Chat, done and dusted. It was fast and furious today, but hopefully it was useful. Join me tomorrow. We're going to be around for another one tomorrow for sure. Sometime in the morning, team, usually about 10 past 8, maybe. I'll start on time tomorrow and we'll have our regular 20 minutes. Anyway, there you go, folks. Great to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Take care. Bye for now. See ya.